and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and today in this segment we are going to discuss all about forest fires. From the perspective of prelims, the facts are important. From the perspective of mains, GS Mains Paper 3 is the major concern here. Now, if we talk about forest fires, it is divided into these many sub-dimensions that we have to cover from the perspective of prelims and mains both. Let's first start with what are the basic things about forest fires. Why are we discussing it? Because regions such as Uttarakhand and Himachal are experiencing a spike in forest fire that could be either attributed to man-made causes or natural causes. The natural causes are, of course, driven and exaggerated or exacerbated by anthropogenic or man-made activities. First of all, let us know what is forest fire. According to Britannica Encyclopedia, a forest fire is an uncontrolled fire, or we also know them as wildfires, and these occur in vegetation which are more than 6 feet in height, and these fires often reach the proportions of a conflagration and becomes really hard to control. That leads to disruption in biodiversity and adding more fuel to the fire with respect to global warming and climate change. Moving on, if we talk about the classification, it could either be natural or controlled forest fire. Nature also causes certain issues with respect to fire. Why? Because when nature has made the characteristic of certain vegetation which are serving as biomass to the fire, even a slightest rise in temperature can do that. Also, forest fires are caused by heat generated in the litter. Whatever dried leaves that have fallen to the ground, they are formed as biomass for the fire. And forest fires seldom are purposely caused by local inhabitants for agricultural purposes and also due to neglect. Even a small bud of a cigarette or the BDs can cause forest fire, which cannot be controlled. Now let's talk about the types. First is surface fire. It may burn primarily as a surface fire spreading along the grounds as the surface litter. Okay, surface litter is a lot when it comes to trees such as sure pine. Pine forests have a lot of litter, and when they serve as a biomass to the fire, it serves as a fuel. It just is on the ground level. Then we have underground fire, which is low intensity. It keeps on burning, and the source is very hard to find because it is underground. It consumes the organic matter beneath the surface litter of forest fuel. And these are subgrouped as underground fires. Then we have ground fire. Now ground fire, these fires are fires in subsurface organic fuels. That is why they are different from surface fires. And under forest stands Arctic tundra, taiga and organic soils of swamps or bogs. This is the major conducive environment for ground fires. Then we have crown fire, in which the crown of the trees and shrubs burn. This is a tree, okay? And this is the crown of the tree. So whenever fire is here with respect to the topmost layer of the tree, it is known as crown fire. And fire storms, these are among those forest fire, the fire spreading most rapidly. It is like a storm, okay, which is an intense fire over a large area. So these are the different types of forest fire. Moving on, if we talk about the causes, as I told you, it could be either natural or man-made. And with respect to Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, November to June are the most prone months to forest fire in that region. Temperature, precipitation, vegetation and moisture, these contribute to the large scale and frequency of fire. A disrupted change in temperature, a spike in temperature or less rainfall supposedly is not as expected, right? That causes also less humidity or moisture content. If there is no moisture content, dryness occurs. That is a very conducive environment for forest fire to occur. Vegetation, the nature of the leaves also matter a lot. Okay, nearly 36% of Indian forests are prone to frequent fires, and higher fire intensity occurs in the month of March, April and May, because there is ample viability of dry biomass in the winters when trees shed their leaves and new leaves come in spring. In that case, whatever the leaves have been shed, that is dried in summer, March, April month, and that causes fire. Most forest fires are man-made, and changes in agriculture and unchecked land use patterns are the main factors which are man-made in nature that contribute to forest fires. It causes a lot of impact. Let's see what are those. First, degradation of catchment areas for rivers, loss of biodiversity, and extinction of plants and animals which are endemic in nature. That is what we saw in the case of Australian wildfire in 2020. Loss of wildlife habitat and depletion of wildlife. Then we have loss of natural regeneration. Again, a proper ecosystem has to be formed if the entire forest is wiped out, and reduction in forest cover, which leads to global warming because now we have very less amount of trees which can capture the carbon content of that area. Loss of carbon sink, change in the microclimate of that area. Temperature rise could persist for days to weeks and months in certain areas which have seen forest fire. Soil erosion affecting productivity and ozone layer depletion as well. Now, if we talk about Himachal and Uttarakhand being affected, the specific areas of Himachal Pradesh that have been affected are Kullu, Mandi, Hamirpur, Bilaspur, and Shimla. And these are the major areas where forest fires are raging. That is a point of concern because Himachal, the region of Himachal, is a huge repository of wildlife and biodiversity. March 1st and April 13, there have been coincidences of heat waves, spike in heat waves, which is coterminous with rise in forest fires. The number of forest fire points rose from 8,735 to 42,486. As you can see, the difference is huge, and that too only in 4 weeks of March. Himachal has witnessed almost 750 fires in April. That is of particular concern. And hot and dry weather is one of the biggest reasons because in February only, the last proper precipitation was witnessed in Himachal. And after that, there was a sudden increase or spike in temperature that has led to hot and dry weather. And usually the forests are humid in April, which has not happened as of yet. This time, as I told you, February was the last month when precipitation was there, and there is rain deficiency of 90 to 94% this April against 84% in the corresponding period last year. Also, the Cher pine forests are crackling dry and there is zero humidity, and that is the problem. Human negligence, such as throwing away their beedis and cigars into the forest and biomass, serves as a litter, and that causes uncontrollable damage. Strong wind velocity is spreading fast fire. When wind velocity is also a lot, which carries the fire and serves as fuel to the fire in the entire area. Moving on, as you can see, this is the Cher pine, and this is the forest which has a characteristic of becoming a good biomass for wildfires. Okay, now these are dry pine leaves. They are highly inflammable, as I told you. In Himachal, of the 196 forest ranges in Himachal Pradesh, 80 are vulnerable to fires, and Cher forests are spread over an area of 3.4% of the total forest area. So the 3.4% area is highly vulnerable to forest fires. Moving on, not only in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, but also like states like Assam, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tripura, Mizoram, and Odisha, they have seen wildfires rising in the past few years. And if we talk about the time range from November 2021 to April 2022, the top 5 states to record the highest forest fires are Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and Maharashtra. You can write this as a prelims fact. Now, there is also mitigation strategy that has been provided by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, how to control and douse them. First, construction of watchtowers, so that watchtowers are like this in forest, and there is a person who is standing here. So watchtowers will create more detection, early detection possible. And we also have to deploy forest fire watchers. Also, creation and maintenance of fire lines and making people aware of those fire lines. Involvement of local community, telling them about the consequences of land use changes and agricultural activities which are actually wiping out the forests. Also, use of remote sensing technology that will help a lot in the early detection of forest fires. Moving on, if we talk about the question for today, the FSI data on forest fires point between March 1st and April 30, 2022, a clear spike in incidents has occurred. So let's see. We have to discuss them in 250 words. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.